Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I am sitting in person with two wonderful people. I've got Andrew Klaus-Vineyard and Daniel Talbott.
Hi.
Hey, you two.
Hello.
What's up?
And I'll just share that you two have been a presence at both Sherman Film Festival and Filmmakers in Los Angeles for many years in a way, right?
Yeah.
So this might be a relatively friendly podcast. Because,
I hope so.
it's been great having both of you around. And so as part of the official introduction, I'll just mention that at Film Invasion Los Angeles last year, Andrew's script, Parking, was a finalist for the Grand Jury Award for Best Screenplay. And last December, My Age Now, which is Daniel's film that you wrote and directed and produced with help, was an official selection and took home the award for the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Cast Performance in a Short Film, Arthouse Experimental. So, golf clap.
Thank you.
And excellent film. And I believe you know this, but the Filmmakers Award is decided by the Filmmakers Board, which is an alumni board.
Yeah.
That's an award from your peers.
Yeah. That's really
And I always tell everyone that means more than the Grand Jury Award is the selection committee. We're old, we're lame, we're biased because we just watch too many films.
Yeah.
Whereas the alumni board, the Filmmakers Board, literally just watches the selections.
Yeah.
So they have better standards. They only see the good stuff.
That's awesome.
There we go.
that.
All right, so. And, oh, wait. The last bit of this introduction is that, like 400-something episodes ago of this podcast, in February of 2022, Daniel was on this podcast.
With another film.
Which means people should go to discoverindiefilm.com, episode 232 from February of 2022. That's a lot of twos. No one will remember it.
Yeah.
I said it too fast. Oh, I can make that a clickable link in the show notes. But anyway, if you want Daniel's story of how Daniel became a creative working in film, you can listen to that one because I believe, we went back to you acting in New York and stuff.
Yeah.
See, I can, even at 57, I can remember some things.
That's amazing.
But since this is Andrew's first time on the Discover Indie Film podcast, we're just going to start with Andrew, and then we'll get to everything you guys are doing currently. But, all right, Andrew, you want to share what pulled you into film and filmmaking and screenwriting?
Yeah. I've always been someone who's worked in the arts. From a young age, I tell this story and it sounds insanely made up, but at a very young age, I saw a Warhol video piece of just him eating a cheeseburger, that famous piece. And I thought, oh, you can control like what people do. Like you can grab someone's attention with the most boring thing possible and kind of shift people's perspectives on like what is art, what is documentation, what is, it's objective reality and subjective at the same time. And I was way too young to kind of process all that, but I knew that I liked that. And then really the two things, because I grew up in a very small town, like 650 people in Georgia, like very rural community. But I had seen behind the scenes footage of the making of Return of the Jedi and The Dark Crystal. And I knew that, oh, wait, those are jobs that people do. You can learn to do those things. I never thought I'd actually get to do them. It was just always in the back of my head. And I kind of stumbled my way into filmmaking. I was a musician and I went to art school and started making experimental film, video installation art and things for galleries. Wasn't really able to do as much narrative work. So I was like, I'll make more experimental work. And from that fell into a decade of making theater, just completely because my career refuses to be a straight
live theater.
Live theater, yeah.
And by the way, the art, was it like fine art, like painting, drawing?
Yeah. I went for a while to Savannah College of Art and Design, and then I was a painter and a video installation artist. I liked kind of doing mixed media, sculpture, and video projection and that sort of thing, and photography. I kind of fell into theater because I love storytelling. And I had friends that ran a theater company basically brought me a script one morning over breakfast and were like, we think you should direct this. And I was like, I've never directed a show. I think you have lost your mind, but this sounds like fun. So I spent the next decade working there, which is how actually I met Daniel. I directed his play Slipping, which is how we met. I decided at 40 to go back to school and get my master's in directing, thinking I would continue with live theater, and just make little video pieces here and there for fun. And the pandemic happened, and I had gone to school somewhere remotely. I went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, which is, it turns out island life is not for everyone. It wasn't for me. So I wanted to, after school, I wanted to go somewhere else. And I thought about New York, because everyone who likes theater thinks about New York. And Daniel suggested, he's like, well, what about LA? They have theater here, but there's also film and TV work. And I was a little burned out on theater. I love live theater, but it is hours and hours and hours of work for absolute pennies. And so I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and ended up in LA. And I love this city so much. It's my favorite city. And I lived up and down the West Coast. I've lived in Portland and Seattle and Honolulu, but I think LA is if you can get on its wavelength, it's magic.
As a third generation Angelino, I appreciate these words. It's much better than hearing my hometown. Which sometimes is bad, but yeah, especially if you find the right part of LA, right? That's the thing is LA. Some people come to LA and they are superficially are like, oh, they didn't roll out the red carpet for me. I hate this place.
Yeah.
But if you find your people, you find your community, you find the art scene, it's there. It's just. Right, New York's stage scene hits you over the head. You can't avoid it. You got to seek out this stage scene here.
Yeah.
Well, and what I love about LA is it has this sort of mythology, culturally, and then there's also the real city, which also has its own mythology. It's a city where those noir films were made because of the city we're living in. It had, LA at night or LA on a rainy day is a different LA than the sunny, beachy LA that is spoon fed to you from the 80s and 90s films. It had an amazing punk scene. There's an amazing queer art scene, and a lot of the New York based artists are, back here in LA now working. You've got Kim Gordon living in Los Feliz now. So it's definitely a city that it's very neighborhoody, and you can make of it what you wish.
Absolutely. And back to you, it did sound like, it's funny you threw in the term storytelling, because even as you were talking about fine art and things, you certainly, even then you sounded like a storyteller. So storytelling is really the through line for you.
100%. I joke that my grandparents on my dad's side are Jewish and my mom's side are a mix of Icelandic and Native American. So I feel like storytelling is just genetically the only thing I'm good at. So that's the job I fell for.
Those are very solid storytelling genes.
Very specific.
The Jews will not stop. We will not stop telling stories.
No, it's very that.
You have to.
And then all the other. But truth is, all cultures, right? Storytelling, the human brain was designed to sit around a campfire
Absolutely.
At the end of a day of hunting and gathering and sharing what we experienced.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the earliest storytelling, we have paintings on cave walls. That they are. There is a very deep human drive to dream and to document those dreams.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, and before we hop into more current stuff, when did you first try screenwriting instead of playwriting and or other types of storytelling?
In undergrad, I went to Portland State and took some screenwriting classes as an elective, as part of a creative writing block, and kind of was like, oh, this is I kind of enjoy doing this. This is, and once I started making things, I was like, I had worked so much in improv and experimental film. I grew to really love a script, to have a roadmap, a blueprint. Even if we threw it out the window halfway through, I was like, well, at least there was an on-ramp, So I really have fallen into it, and more lately. And as I've written things and put them out there, I'm getting, it's nice when you get good feedback. And I'm like, oh, okay, I do actually have some aptitude for this. Whereas sometimes, you write things and you're like, is this good? Is this anything? So while outside validation is not the end of the world or, make or break, it's nice to kind of find something that you're like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. It's how writing it makes you feel, and you can always tell us whether it's you can always tell a piece of writing that was written for the wrong reasons, where someone's just attention seeking or something. You're like, okay, there's no soul here. Yeah. And so obviously was that the bond for you two when you met as collaborators and whatnot, that you were both natural storytellers?
I mean, the bond was definitely theater first. You know, it was, I think, being queer artists and also queer theater, TV, and film artists. And, you know, I think my agent sent, because Defunct was this amazing company in Portland that Andrew ran that did incredible plays that I loved. And I just kept going like, who is this company that's doing like every show from London and Ireland and Scotland and New York that I love? And so my agent, I think, just sent them the published copy of Slipping and was like, hey, would you be interested in this? And it was like, you know, it was such a beautiful production of it. And it was so much fun. I got to go out, I think, a couple times for rehearsal, for the beginning of rehearsal, and then also to see the show. And it was just a love fest. It was, and I love Portland. You know, I also had lived there as a little kid for like 4 months or something like that. And so it was, you know, so I think it was, for me, it was theater, TV, and film. And kind of where that bridge crossed, and then just we kept in touch and became friends and wandered around Portland a lot, and then just, you know, and then he was, you know, we kept talking, and he kept going like, look, I'm really wanting to possibly move into film and TV, and, you know, what is your thoughts on that? And I was like, look, I love New York, but like financially, weirdly, I feel that there's actually
LA is the more affordable.
Is more affordable, and also just like, and there's also like, you know, I feel like sometimes New York can have a bit of a caste system, you know what I mean? And I feel like, you know, I love New York so much, and I love New York theater, obviously, always, but I feel like sometimes it's easier just on a community level to break in LA. Like people are kind of like, hey, cool, come check out this play, or let's make a play together. Like it doesn't have, because it just doesn't have the same kind of like, you know, like who's in, who's out.
Right. There's off Broadway, but it's not like indie theater where, well, I guess they have indie theater too, but
hugely.
But like the barriers of entry here are lower really because everyone's fighting to get TV and movies going, and so our stage scene is probably a much better place to.
There's a beautiful scrappiness and kind of Wild Westness to the theater scene in LA that reminds me so much, because I grew up in the Bay Area theater scene, and Bay Area theater is always my heart. Like that is always, I love New York. New York is kind of my big home for theater, but the Bay Area theater is like is my heart, you know, and I love the scrappiness of it, and just the fucking weirdness of it, and the people are doing it for zero money, and like they put everything they have into it. And LA reminds me of that, actually. You know, you have these incredible actors that are out here, and these incredible playwrights and directors and stuff who are here working in television and film that just love theater as well. So you get to work with these incredible people like Stephen Belber and Jessica Goldberg, and who are out here doing television and film, but are also writing incredible plays for the Echo Theater Company, you know. And so it's kind of a beautiful blend of both worlds, I feel. And there's like less, you know, there's not the New York Times. You know, you're not going to get like, wake up one morning and go like, oh shit. No one is going to see this play.
You can't get, right. You can't get your asshole ripped off, but
like you can, I mean,
you can, but it's not like there's make or break LA theater scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
but the other bummer is when there's something wonderful, it's really hard to get the word out.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever read, you know, with the exception a couple of times, I don't think I've ever read a review of theater out here. So when I go, it's actually because of the play and because of the playwright and because of the people in it and because of the company, and I get to just experience it, and I love that. There's something, and I felt that way about the Bay Area too. I was like, I don't remember really reading many reviews in the Bay Area, you know, and because I was producing a lot as well as directing and doing stuff like that in New York. As a producer, you have to read all that stuff in New York. You have to kind of know how you're going to market it and get people in. And, you know, there's also a first and foremost artistic, but also financial aspect of it. And so I love that LA doesn't have that. And so that was part of the thing. I was like, look, you can do all three out here. And there's kind of this great, again, Wild West feel that like anyone can kind of show up and stake claim and make their fucking shit, which I love that. You know,
Yeah, and I
so.
think for me coming up, also like I have a whole other like side career in music where I kind of came up in the punk and riot girl scenes and queercore scene, where that kind of DIY, scrappy attitude is like I'm very comfortable in that space, probably more so than I am in like a larger studio space. Like that kind of those sort of things intimidate me a bit more. Whereas like we have $7 and we are making a feature film. How do we do, like that's the kind of thing I'm like, okay, well, we can make that work. Like you start calling it, it's all about mutual aid. You start calling in favors with friends. And I think that's definitely something I admire, like that you work that way too so much. And you can navigate both those worlds really well. But I think I saw that in his play, Slipping, was like, I've told this story a million times that Matthew Kern, my co-artistic director at Defunct, read it first, emailed me, and was like, "You have to read this right away." And frequently with that text, that message means this is really bad. Read this now. This will make your morning more fun. Like this is like, I hate.
It's so bitchy.
Listen,
so...
the company is now dissolved. I can say that. It just, that's very much Matthew and I's dynamic. And
I would die.
No.
That's so not me.
It's not nice, but it is true. And I read it, and within 10 pages, I was locked in a way that I haven't been in a really long time, especially from a play that just was submitted to us that wasn't, like a work in progress or something. And I saw myself like it was like a bisexual, punk rock kid who, was like living in a rural area, and it's just this love story. And that's the thing that underneath all of it was there was so much love and like romance in it that I loved. And, it's been since that time, we're just now, I feel like seeing like a little flowering of like queer romance in things like
Heated rivalry.
Heated
rivalry, yeah.
Our Heartstopper, it's although Slipping is heavier than both of those things. It lives more closer to Heated Rivalry than Heartstopper for sure, even though it's more aged. Yeah. Like the characters are like in high school for a big chunk of it. But that was the first time I ever saw myself on stage, like saw in a script that I was like, oh, like this is an experience that is, I wasn't having to pull pieces out.
Right, you could identify.
I could identify like wholesale with things in it. And so I was like, oh, this is somebody I want to know forever.
Right. Anytime we read something or see something and we totally identify, it does make you feel like, okay, whoever wrote this is my kind of person.
Yeah, absolutely.
You really, really, really feel that way. I kind of want to get to other subjects, but I actually have a question, which is, so the play, it occurred to me
now. Will be the longest podcast ever.
Yeah, it's going to go, we're going to talk for about 5 hours.
9.5 hours later.
I don't know why it took me so long, 57 years to realize this, but one of the most amazing things about playwriting must be that the plays get restaged and you get to see new interpretations and like you write a screenplay, you shoot it. It's not like anyone's going to go back and go, okay, let's, they'll remake shit. Yeah. But it's not like you get to watch other creatives take the script and do it with their vision. Yeah. And it must be amazing to like see a play, produced and directed and performed in different eras and different cities and see how different people present your work.
Yeah, I mean, I've had both experiences. Like, I mean, overall, it's incredibly cool. And like, you go like, oh fuck, wow, someone cares about a story that came out of me. You know what I mean? Like, that's a really cool, beautiful thing. And I've had experiences where I've gone like, whoa, shit. I was like, is this really what I wrote? And, and then I've had
like, well, these motherfuckers really stretched, didn't they?
Yeah, I had one production that they added sex scenes to it that weren't written, and I was like, oh my God, this now feels like a porn, and I'm totally embarrassed, because it's very sex positive and there's a lot of nudity and sexuality in it because that was the relationship it's based on. And I love that. I'm incredibly sex positive. I love sex. Like, I'm not prudish about that stuff, so it's like, but they added scenes that were like, and I was like, oh no. I was like, and I even remember I was so tired when I saw this production because I was directing and producing a show in New York too. And I went up for a day to see it. And I remember going, God, did I change this? Like, I mean, I literally, because I kept blaming it on myself. I was like, did I really put this in there? And then I realized, like, by the third time, I was like, oh no, they've improv their own imaginative ideas they've included extra sex.
Artistic license, I guess.
It was
but...
so bad. It was so painful. I was so embarrassed. And but mostly it is such an honor, and like it's so profound to it's like the biggest it's the most beautiful thing. It's like you get to sit there and go like, God, people actually give a shit about like what's inside you in some way, strangers, you know. And it's the coolest thing in the world, you know.
Excellent. I had to ask because I just love live theater and you know, feel guilty on not a daily basis, but you know, it's so hard to not be lazy and not go to shows. I actually I have a New Year's resolution every year, which is 5 plays. Yeah. I'm going to go to 5 plays this year. And so I always try to hit a couple early, but because the experience of being in a room with the performer and breathing the same air, it's so special.
There's also so many great theater companies in LA. Like I feel like LA does not get, sometimes from other places, doesn't get the respect. It's a fucking great theater town. Like, I mean, like I've seen amazing things in the city, and there's such incredible theater artists here. Again, some of them which came for film and TV, but are still so in love and so embedded in theater. And I've just seen some of my favorite productions ever in the city, and I love that they're kind of hole in the wall theaters, and I love that. It feels like such a discovery. I'm like, there's like 30 of us, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And you know, and it's so wonderful. So I love this town for theater. I think it's amazing.
Well, and it's also the kind of town where you'll like on a Tuesday or Thursday night, someone will call you up. It's very word of mouth, and like a friend will call you up and be like, hey, do you want to go see a staged reading of like A Streetcar Named Desire with an all trans cast? And you have like Eve Lenley directing it, and you have like Alexandra Billings and Chaz Bono, Brian Michael Smith in it. And you have, so like, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I want to go do that. And then you sitting there watching it, you know, Jamie Clayton is giving the wildest Blanche I've seen in a decade. And I'm like, I'm so lucky to be in the room.
Yeah, and it's like a $10 ticket, if that.
Yeah, sometimes it's the donation, right?
Yeah,
sometimes
it's the donation.
And you look at that and you say to yourself, well, at least 10, if not, but hopefully you just have a $20 bill on you, if you still have cash. I bet they got Venmo QR codes now for the.
A lot of places do. Yeah,
a lot of them do. Yeah.
You have to now.
Yeah, like it never. Like I feel like no one does a play in LA. Other than if you really, really need to and want to. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? There's no there like it's already hard enough. It's already hard to get people to come from the west side or the east side. It's like, you know, so like there's such a strong desire behind every play that gets put up here, and you can feel that in the production. Even if the production's a $4 production, I can feel the fucking heart and the fire and the desire and the need to put up that play in every room, and that's infectious to me. So I love that.
Well, I think that's something that drive that I think theater artists have serves well for indie film, because it's a similar,
usually,
you know, the medium is different, but the soul and the core of the storytelling is the same. It's like, here is something personal, vulnerable, intimate, or something that's wild and dark and a big swing, but we're going to make it the same way as a community, as a group of people who've come together with a unified purpose to do this, to make this thing.
Absolutely. All right. So, but amusing, I use the word collaborating, but have you two officially collaborated on one? On a film?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Several at this point.
Several, right?
We're actually
I'm just trying to segue us because I know we're getting.
We gotta get to film. We gotta get to film.
Yeah, right. We're here because we want to talk about not just parking.
We're in LA. Get to the film, kid.
Well, you know, like no. Well, the funny thing is, like, I would have been happy talking about stage for the next hour, but it is Discover Indie Film, and you know, we just showed My Age Now last month. Yeah. Although by the time this comes out, it'll be 2 months ago, but all fair. All's fair. I know there is no time, right? Podcasts are, especially this recorded digital shit.
Yeah.
Out in the open.
No, we've done a ton of projects together, and we also curate with one of our best friends, Javier Fuentes Leon, who's an amazing filmmaker as well. Actually, one of my favorite filmmakers.
This film Undertow is stunning.
Unfucking real. And so we co-curate a monthly queer cinema series called The Black Cat at Look Cinemas in Glendale, which is also your guys' home, which is very cool. So we do a ton of projects together, and right now we're in finishing post this week on a documentary that we created about the Tool Shed, which is a sanctuary kind of leather bar out in Palm Springs that we co-directed and co-produced with our other friends, Noel Dumirakami and Rachna and stuff, and Jonah Sirota did the music, and so we've done a ton of projects together, and I'm helping produce Parking that he's about to do. He's producing the feature that I'm directing in San Francisco in a couple of weeks, so it's a lot of crossover. Like, the queer film community is tight, and there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah,
which is great.
it's like a gang.
Yeah.
And it's like
A wonderful gang.
It's a wonderful gang. It's you know, with my film, I had this queer horror film, Unknown at Large. Daniel produced it. We wrapped on a Sunday, and on Wednesday I was on set of My Age Now as the intimacy coordinator for that film. Yeah. So it's like, we'll change hats, no problem, you know. And it was like, hey, can you produce on this pilot that we were working on? So it was like, there's
a ton of projects, and which is, it's really cool to like find your community of other film people that have such different voices than you and kind of stretch you and grow you in those ways, but also where you have that kind of center at the middle as well that makes you in the same way, and are trying to tell stories in the same way. And it's incredible.
And a community where someone could produce, or intimacy coordinate, or you know, if your friend needs someone to hold a boom, then you do it, right?
Yeah, if you got crafty, show the fuck up and bring crafty. Like, it's like, bring the pizza. So totally.
I think it back to this is like to bring it to specifically to the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. There was a panel about queer film, and all of us now work together on something. There were some people I'd never met till that day, and now it's like, we talked about showing up and showing out for each other, and I was like, I'll hold a boom mic, I will do like whatever you need, to help you make your films. Like, we all have to take care of each other, and every single one of us in that on that panel have now like really like shown up for each other and continue to in wild, unexpected ways. So it's it's community is everything, especially these days when the world feels so out of control. It is good to take a breath and look around and look with love at the people around you and be like, okay, we can make a thing together. And then at the end of the day, when you've done that, you're like, we made this together, and you will always have that.
I guess I feel like just really lucky to be surrounded by really different queer filmmakers and different queer artists, and all I want to hear all their stories. Like, they're all so fucking different from me, which I love, and it's like I want to hear those stories. Like, I want to be like, God, I didn't know that. Like, I don't know that community. I don't know that side of our community. Like, I want to see and hear and experience and sit in a theater and watch all of those stories, and so it feels so inspiring to get to wake up every day, and I know everyone's like, oh, the death of Los Angeles and the death of cinema and the death of all this shit, but I actually think it's also out of every great movement in film has come out of kind of a really fucked up period, basically, and so for me, I'm like, there's a lot of possibility in all this there's a lot of like Phoenix like growth and possibility in all this kind of devastation around us, and how are we going to do that? And I feel like queer filmmakers, other filmmakers know how to do that better than anybody because they've always had to. And so I look to people like Eve, or like, Darren Stein, or like Javier, or Louise Weird, or Vera Drew, and I go like, show me the way. You're a badass. Like, I know you're going to make something badass no matter what. No one's going to get in your way. And I want to hear the stories you're telling, and they know how to do it, and they do it. They're like, they have a punk mentality, even in success. That's so beautiful. And, so I'm very inspired by that and by that community right now. So that makes me feel very positive actually about what's happening right now. So
yeah. And I want to add that at Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2024, we had the panel Queer Filmmaking Today, where you handled bringing on all the panelists, and the diversity was wonderful. Yep. The diversity of people on that panel was wonderful, and it was wonderful to have, and I watched it and really enjoyed it. And oh yeah, I had to watch it. Yeah, that's right. We had to do a favor for someone.
Yeah.
There was a little
There's a little glitch.
no, just look. People say things in public, and they say to themselves, "You know what? I don't need that on the internet."
Or I can't. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I can't because of my job. Yes. Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, the diversity of that is great. We all are different storytellers. I mean, I think coming from both like the punk scene and also my academic background, like I left art school, and then my undergrad degree is the most Portland, Oregon degree you could possibly have. It's queer, feminist, and Marxist theory and media analysis. Like I look at, patterns, I look at history, and I look at the way the movement has been. And I look a lot at there's a great collection of essays about new queer cinema by B. Ruby Rich that she wrote, contemporaneously when those movements were happening, coming out of Sundance. And, it is a blueprint. I look at how Gregor Rocky made films. I look at how Derek Jarman made films in the UK. I look at how Gus Van Sant, Lizzie Borden, and like Marlon Riggs was going out, and they blend the line between documentary and experimental art film and traditional narrative, and sometimes it's all three of those and none of those things all at once. And I'm like, okay, well, there are other people who have done what I love before me. And I'm not trying to blaze a new trail. I'm purposely trying to pick up a baton and carry it forward. And I'll be happy to pass it off to the person behind me. Like, I am personally not someone who is ambitious in the way of like cutting someone's throat to get to where I am. I am a person who really wants to bring everyone with me. It's, if you go up a rung, you reach back and pull up the person behind you. I think because people have been so incredibly generous to allow that for me in my life, I'm very mindful of paying that forward always.
And you respect those who came before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We would not be here. And I think it's so important for filmmakers, especially queer filmmakers, but listening to interviews and reading articles lately, I feel like watch more movies, people, please. I think knowing history is extremely important in art.
Yeah. I mean, it's all built on, your elders. I think elders are so important. And it's why we made Toolshed, and it's why, the people in my life that have probably drastically changed it were, people like Larry Kramer and people like Morgan Jeunesse and people like, and just in the theater and they all came from a very different generation. And I was like so hungry for what they had to bring to the table, and I feel like also the work of an artist is a continuation. It's a tradition. And so, to try to kind of break away, I love tradition. I actually, I don't like tradition when it's kind of stops you or paralyzes you. I love tradition when it kind of changes you, empowers you to do something different.
Right. The difference between tradition and fundamentalism in a way.
Yeah.
It's not.
Don't
Fundamentalism is rigid. Tradition, I mean, it's a hackneyed term, but one of the most true statements of our lives at this era of humanity is standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because, from science to astrophysics to theater, I know things that someone 100 years ago would have never had in their brain. Yeah. And it's solely because so many wonderful people came before us.
Yeah, and knowing who those people are. And again, we keep talking about queer filmmakers because we're, white for the most part and queer. But I would say othered filmmakers, you know what I mean? And I also think there's this whole thing about when you're watching kind of the administration that's in office right now literally try to disappear queer history and queer culture and vanish it. It's more important than ever to create those films and because they cannot be vanished in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like when you show them in a room and people watch them, it is fucking history projected through art on a wall, on a scrim. And you're like, we were here, it's not a mirage. It's not, it's not even a vocal story that could be manipulated. It's like a physical entity in the room that is powerful, that image. And so, yeah, I think that's why so many people are responding. Like I love Heated Rivalry. I know some people have issues with it, but I love the doors it's opened. I love that I have straight friends watching it and celebrating it, and who are watching these two beautiful guys go to town on each other, and I'm like, they're watching it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, like that representation is so fucking important. And especially when you live in a time when someone's trying to disappear you as a culture and as a person, and kind of go like, oh, you're sick and wrong, and or we just don't want it, we're not to acknowledge you. It's so important, you know.
It is. I'm almost tempted to make a comment about heated rivalry. I think it's, but instead I'll segue to Sherman Oaks Film Festival 2025. Well, no, because
they're like, why are we listening to Discover what?
Because you shared with me, we mentioned the current administration, and we mentioned some things going on in our culture, and so we had you shared with me before we started recording that at the last festival in December, at Sherman Oaks Film Festival, December last year, there were some people in the audience who were not open-minded indie theater.
Who didn't like boys doing dirty things together.
They didn't like, male nudity. Right off the bat, they didn't care for.
It was more like...
It was the sex.
I mean, you know, the reason I made... So my age now...
And I bet those same awful people are enjoying heated rivalry.
You know, who knows?
Maybe
like,
not.
It's, you know, it's like, I just know that for me, I was like, with my age now, and like, I know we talked about Unknown at Large, and then this other film called like Lightning, that we were like, I want to be making films no matter what. I want to be making films constantly. What is in my way? And I don't want money to be the thing that is in my way. So, you know, so all of these 3 films were made for nothing in basically a day. So that was the first thesis of it. And then I was like, well, what's the story of it? What's the heart of it? And for me, I was like, I want to see gay lovemaking, because like, I love sex of all types. I not to squash anyone's kink and kind of, you know, what sex positivity they find, but like, I'm really vanilla. Like, I like to go to bed with the person I love and like fuck each other's brains out. You know, it's not like, you know, like I will never probably be the person in a sling or like, you know, like, you know, it's just not who I am, you know? So it's like, I'm pretty fucking vanilla. And I wanted to make a movie that's just like 2 people in love, making love to each other who were gay, you know, and I feel like I've seen that in heterosexual films so much, and I love it, and it's awesome, and I think sexuality should be in films. I know there are people that don't agree with that, but I wanted to see the gay version of that, and so everything was about sensuality and lovemaking, and being nude with each other, both, and that the nudeness is not just a physical nudeness, it's an emotional nudeness, and that was important to me, and it was, and mostly I think it's been well received. You know, even the writing of it is very young, like on purpose. The writing of my age now is kind of, it's shit you would be embarrassed to say in your 30s. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some of the writing I'm like, you know, it's almost like, it's like, oh,
that's because you're inhabiting the characters.
Because he's like a 20-year-old. Yeah. Like, you know, and you think it's profound when you say it at 19, 20, 21. And then you look back in your 30s, like, did I really fucking say that on a voicemail to somebody? Oh my God, I want to kill myself. You know, so we try to embrace like the youthfulness of it and the sexuality of it and just the love of it and the sensuality of it.
And our selection jury responded well to it.
Yeah, which was awesome.
Right. And our Filmmakers board responded well to it, acknowledging the wonderful performances of the whole cast.
Thank you. Yeah, and they're amazing. And you know, and this is, I think, the 5th time I've been involved in one of the 2 festivals.
It's true. I should have looked that up.
It's been a lot. And I love the festivals. Obviously love you, Jeff. And, you know, but it was interesting. It was like a 10 p.m. screening, and we had been doing a bunch of other stuff, so I hadn't been able to go to
like
a lot
late
of
on
festival.
Saturday night.
Yeah,
right?
And
Saturday.
I had missed like opening of the festival. Like it had just been a really effing busy time because we were doing the TV show and also the film and Black Cat and just a lot of other things. And so I only got to go to the screening, and I came and I think brought you a present because I was like, I wanted to be like, oh, I'm sorry I haven't shown up, but here's something for you, and thank you for doing this. You know, and my film was the final film, I think, of the night.
It was. I thought it would be hard to follow.
And what was interesting is like, it was a pretty hetero crowd, and the other films were heterosexually based. And I was really excited. I love that you don't separate us. I love that. I think that's really important. And it's like, I don't want to preach to the choir. I mean, sometimes I love a queer audience. I love it. That's the main reason I make films. But I also want it to extend. Like, I love the heated rivalries being watched by like hockey bros who are dudes, you know, like dude, straight boys, you know, and they're like, oh, dude, shit, you know, and they're loving it. And you know, but so the minute it starts, you know, it's an ass and someone's hand going up an ass, and you can't really tell yet if it's a boy or a girl. You pretty quickly can. But the minute the audience at that screening could tell that it was two boys, I was literally, I mean, the woman next to me was like, "Oh fuck this fag shit," you know, like literally, and like it was just there was something in the room that night that was rough.
And she was next to you, which
and that was
if she had been 5 rows away.
But it wasn't just her.
But yeah,
it was like
it was
everything shifted, and I was like, it was just one of those nights, you know. And usually I feel like really strong and equipped to handle that, but I think I was so tired and so worn down, and some nights it just fucking hurts, you know, like, I mean, and that night it just hurt, and then we had to go up and do individual Q&As, and I knew I was the last one too, so I had to watch all the other ones. I was like, fuck, I do not want to do this Q&A, but it's so rude for me to leave. And so, you know, I went up and
I would have supported you, by the way.
Oh, and, you know, and so we went up into this Q&A, and, you know, one of the first questions was like, you know, why do you feel like you have to show basically that on screen? And I was like, well, I've spent my entire life watching the heterosexual form of that on screen, my whole fucking life. And so I want to see the queer version of that on screen. And, you know, you don't see any penetration. It's not like people screaming and yelling, and like, it's all sensual. It's beautifully shot by Johannes, our DP. And I was like, I've watched this with heterosexual films my entire life. Like, I want to see the homosexual version of this, and I want to see the lesbian version of this, and the trans version of this, and the non-binary version of this. Like, I want to see anything other than the straight white version of this. And, you know, so that's why I made this film, you know, is so that you have to sit in a room with whatever you feel about gay sex and actually watch it. Because that's the only way to, like, really face it in a way and face our prejudice about it. So, you know. Yeah.
And in a way, I mean, I'm still proud to show it to an audience like that, because maybe over time we can reach them a little bit and have them realize it's not a big, you know what I mean? Like it is just, it's a beautiful
really
film.
Yeah.
It's artistically shot. You know, we've all, you know, when you watch French films from the 60s that start on a bare ass.
Totally.
Right? Like we've seen that forever.
I think it's a hand gently caressing a bare ass. Like, it's the most tame, like, it's what's really
human thing.
It's really human. It's just, and I think that actually is part of what makes some people more uncomfortable. It isn't, well, I can ascribe it to like sexual attraction or like some sort of, you know, animalistic urge. Intimacy, delicacy, male vulnerability is a lot harder to process for some people. It creates a cognitive dissonance with their own baked in ideals of masculinity. And I think that can trigger that a little bit. Now, you know, I was just say too, as the intimacy coordinator on that film, there's no real sex. It is well within the R-rated guidelines. I mean, it is not at all explicit. It is frank, but and you know, maybe people would use the term graphic, but I don't even like the word graphic for it.
It's intimate.
It's intimate.
Yeah.
And it's delicate, and it's you know, it's about love.
Yeah, that's probably what bothers that person who was commenting, right? Is that they can't deny the intimacy and the reality of the emotions on screen, probably, right?
You can't
subtly
their humanity. You can't deny the humanity on the screen.
Exactly, yeah. And someone who uses the term fag shit is probably telling themselves that those people, you know, they want to characterize the queer community a certain way. And this film is shooting that in the face, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I you know, it yeah. Like I really,
because it's not a one night stand. It's not, you know,
No.
It's not the way Hollywood presents the community at all.
No, and that's fine. Like, I mean, and also I know tons of straight people that go do the same shit. You know, like, it's like, I know a lot of straight people that do the same shit. And it's like, you know, it's like sex is sex, and it's like there's all different forms of it, and I'm like, as long as there's two consenting adults that are not hurting each other, fucking have at it. You know what I mean? But like, I never understood in the deepest part of myself. I'm bisexual. I was married to a dude for a long time. Now I'm married to a woman, had sex with both happily for a long time. And I've just never understood the obsession with hating queer people. I don't get it. I like, on a deep human spiritual heart level, I go like, I've done both, and they both operate the same way. Like, it's like, dude, we're both trying to do the same thing in both equations. And it's to bring pleasure to someone that you're fucking attracted to and that you're with. And it's like, and I just don't, I'll never, so it's why I actually really like showing sex on screen, because I'm like, I think it's me grappling with just a deep question in myself. Like, what is it about that fucking people like? I mean, literally, there are films in the last couple of years that the entire turning action of the film is a man raping another man. And this is a big film. I'm just thinking of one. I'm not even going to shout it out. But like, and I'm like, the whole film turns on that action, which then subconsciously you go, in this person's mind, the worst thing that could happen is someone is getting fucked in the ass by another man. And, just there's a subconscious thing that if that's the worst action you can imagine. And I go like, I don't know. Like, I just go, I just don't get it, and have never gotten it on a human level. The vitriol of how people just fucking hate queerness and some people. And I don't get it. Because the coolest people I know are fucking queer and like trans, and like they search, they ask more questions, they look at the world in a more prismatic way. I love that. I'm like, what is bad about this? Like, I don't get it.
Well, and I want to defer to Andrew because you have a degree that will help explain.
I'm really nerd about
this.
Yeah,
drop some nerdy shit.
I will. I know, but I would think about this too, and I've said this to a lot of people. Like, I think I had I came out really young. I came out in the 90s. I always joke I came out before Ellen DeGeneres. Like, also didn't have a TV show hanging over my head, so I'll give her that much grace, a very small amount. But I think about the fact that so many of the people that I grew up with have stayed in their hometown, which is fine if that's your choice. But so many people I grew up with are married and divorced with multiple kids from multiple partners, and they've just kind of stayed in this cycle. And I think for me, I could easily see that could have been myself as well. But being queer blew up that roadmap for me. And it led me to feeling out of place even within my home. If you're, this is like a very delicate situation, and I've heard this described this way, and I really appreciate it, is like, if you're a person of color and you deal with racism in the world, you can go home and talk to your family who look like you, and they can relate. If you're a queer person, largely you're born into a family that is not like you, that you can't perhaps even share that part of yourself with, and you go out into the world and experience, discrimination. It might not be a safe place to talk about at home. So you internalize those things, and it's a very difficult thing to grapple with. And so I like the art that I have always made kind of comes from this lineage of exploring sexuality and intimacy as a beautiful thing, as a thing that builds bonds, as a thing that you find community within, and allows you to kind of make your own path, which is actually a great blueprint for like indie filmmaking. Like, there's no book, there's no and each thing is unique, each relationship is different, each film has its own family, its own rhythm, its own soul. So like that for me is, I feel really lucky in that way to be queer, and it took me a long time to feel that way, for sure. But you're right though, like with the difference between, they talk constantly about like, oh no, like you can't have a queer character in this film. It's indoctrination. What if kids see it? But then, every Disney movie from the beginning of time, is a heterosexual love story. Nobody's like, well, that's forcing sexuality onto children, So like, I saw, and growing up, I didn't see a lot of positive queer representation at all.
And yet still 10% of the population, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, yeah, it's ridiculous to think that influences children. My joke is always, if children were influenced by television, then Barney the dinosaur would have made a whole generation of kind, loving kids who just want to hug.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen.
I saw a great thing once. It was be the person Mr. Rogers believed you could be. Yeah. And I will say this about television, as someone who grew up in such a rural, isolated area. I mean, it is half an hour, 45 minutes drive to like the nearest like chain grocery store. It's really, really remote. television saved my life. Television and film, this is the 80s and 90s, and I had a satellite, and I was able to access world cinema and television from all over, and MTV, as we talk a lot of shit about MTV over the years, but MTV at the time was like allowed me to see amazing filmmaking, as these video directors were experimental filmmakers in my mind, and also was political. I, as a kid, knew about Amnesty International. I knew about Greenpeace. I knew about Rock the Vote. I learned about feminism. I, ended up moving away and, ending up in like feminist punk, bands because
MTV still supported bands like Culture Club and everyone pretended.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty clear that there was a queer presence on MTV.
Yeah,
it was just a little under the surface, but it wasn't shunned.
Yeah, there's not even under the surface when you have Mick Jagger and David Bowie dancing.
That's true.
In the street.
My favorite video is that without sound.
And Andy Warhol hosting a fucking talk show for MTV. I mean, he wasn't hiding.
That's the thing that changed my life. Like I saw Andy Warhol's like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and you must have been amazingly isolated in rural Georgia, rural South.
And I was interested in...
And also part Jewish. Like, that must have just... you had nowhere to go.
Mixed race and Jewish and in the South. And also, like, punk rock. I mean, I had, like, purple hair. And I was a kid who, like, loved horror, which was not something that was, like, popular there. And so horror really was my gateway, too, to see, like, minorities fight back. And to see, it was, like, to see... a lot of horror is political. I mean, most good horror should be all political. So I grew up on watching like environmental horror films and like, and all these things where I'm like, yeah, we have to treat the world better. We have to treat each other better. That was my takeaway. And so I don't understand how people are watching things and the takeaway is I should be a bigger bigot.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. I also like... I don't know. I'm not gonna say that. No. I'm gonna be good.
Self-editing. All right, feel free. Yeah. You don't have to, but
no. I mean, I think the short version, the cleanest version is I just think about all the fucking straight dudes that I hooked up with in high school, and I'm like, who all have kids, and I'm like, it didn't make you fucking gay, and you were instigating it. I wasn't instigating it. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't once. It wasn't like it happened when you were drunk. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, our sexuality is so beautifully. It is like the ocean. It is as deep and crazy and tidal and fucking unexplored as the ocean or space. And I go, that's amazing. Like let's embrace the power and the beauty of that instead of fucking terrifyingly running from it and burning it to the ground, and I think it's an amazing thing. So.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, like the fluidity of like people, if you give them space to figure themselves out and to just, without judgment, people end up happier. They live longer. And
babies are still going to get made.
Babies are,
and raised.
Yeah.
Maybe even happier.
Being attracted to a person, regardless of their gender, doesn't make you one thing or another. I mean, you're just in love with a person. I feel like that, and like I think there's too much rigidity with like what that means. And I also think more love in the world is not a bad thing. Falling in love and finding your person. I fully, I was going through a breakup with a woman when I had a one night stand, and I've been with that person for 22 years now because I was like, oh, I found my person. I didn't care about the gender. I was like, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what it's about. Like, I come from a family with lots of divorce, and I'm luckily,
most people do,
feel like my mom jokes that she's like, somehow you have the one stable marriage in the family. And I'm like, yeah, because we actually like each other.
No, I mean,
I just want to remove the somehow, right?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, I'm happily married to a woman and queer, and have always openly been queer. And the amount of shit I get from the queer community for that is fucking unreal. Like, I mean, I've heard some miraculously interesting things.
There's rigidity on both sides.
Both sides. And I'm like, yeah, you can't fake fucking someone for 26 years. I'm sorry. It's just, we fuck a lot. I'm very happy. We have a great marriage. And I'm also queer as fuck and think guys are great too. So I don't like, I'm like, that's just how I'm made. I don't think there is a B in LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
It really is real, at least for some people. And it's so weird to me. Like on both sides, the rigidity, the puritanicalism on both sides is frightening to me.
Yeah, I assume it comes down to some people, it's tribalism, us versus them thinking. Yeah. But there's just, yeah, I mean, I'm like you, I honestly have never understood it. But I haven't understood hating someone based on their skin color or which God they 100%. Happen to be. By the way, everyone is born with their God. Like, no, very few of us choose that belief.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like hating people. I really don't like, blondes. Like who would be like that? Like who would say like, no, blonde people, that's a sign of the devil. Like I've never understood that, but I was, whatever, raised as part of a, I was raised Jewish, and so I was taught, and in the era of the 70s when they taught us about the Holocaust way too fucking young. So you're aware of like mass extinction, people looking to kill you. Like, I'm not sure you want to know that when you're 6 or 7.
Well, you know what? It's just, that's, I grew up with that. And then also with the specter of HIV/AIDS in the 80s and 90s. So I've always been aware, and then my, the Native American side of my family, my grandmother, she's from a generation where if you were white passing enough, they would take you away from your parents and give you to someone else, or adopt you out.
To make you white.
Or to know.
But anytime I hear the word passing, right?
Housemaid.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I know, but it's crazy.
Passing, the idea of passing.
I say passing all
right,
the time.
Right.
I'm very, very white passing and very aware of it.
Right. But it creates, that's part of the falsehood, the false dichotomy that there is normal and abnormal, right?
Absolutely.
And completely unfair because there is no normal.
Well, I think when you are othered in any way, you're very aware of that. And I think for me, what it did was, and you did have like the survivor's guilt and the generational trauma of like multiple, genocides. In my case, my family, and like with the Holocaust and then everything. I think a lot about life is short. I only have a finite amount of time. What do I want to spend it doing? Yeah. What do I want to do? I want to spend it being angry and bitter, or do I want to spend it making something to leave behind? Do I want to spend it giving and love and compassion to the people? Like, to me, we're here for such a short time. I want to spend my time doing as much good as I can. And I feel I describe the world to campfire rules. You leave it in the same or better shape than you found it in. And
I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
No.
I actually, not that this is a weird thing for an atheist to say, but I believe like the commandment is restore the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they add under God's rule, but I think I can leave off that part.
I always joke.
It's so funny how MAGA picks and chooses so incredibly well when it comes. There's so many of God's laws that they just choose to ignore so they can make money and
nothing makes me.
It makes me so fucking mad just how blatant it is, and like. I'm like, you guys, when we're 2, we can kind of go like 1 + 1 = 2. And you can see that person's lying. And if this is God's 10 commandments and they're only obeying 3 of those 10 commandments, they're fucking not obeying God. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and yet they're using God to say that I'm a piece of shit because I'm queer.
I'm
like, what?
Yeah, I love when people quote Leviticus. And you're like, while wearing like a poly blend shirt, I'm like, that's 2 fabrics mixed, sir.
Yeah. And a lot of them are so ignorant about what's actually in the Bible. Like the smartest people I know that know the most about the Bible are all 4 gay clergymen that I know, and they know the Bible forwards, backwards, upside down, through, and every single way. Can quote you anything from it. And they're happily queer and also happily in love with God. And I'm like, oh wow, you make so much more sense to me than this mother effer.
It's a wild era to live in that the Pope is a more open-minded human than the President of the United States.
It's a wild
the
era
Pope is
to
like
live in
defend people against ICE.
Like my whole lifetime, the Pope was an
wild.
asshole, right? Now all of a sudden the Pope is like
God.
has an open mind and understands society.
I think it's been really, especially for us, because we just made this documentary, which is largely about it's our first generation of openly queer senior citizens, and who, because of HIV and AIDS, didn't actually expect to live to be senior citizens, and kind of like with a blueprint and the roadmap that they have carved out for all of us, like how we survive this moment that we're in now, when they have lived this moment multiple times, and
they lived under a government that did not want them to live.
Yes.
Like literally, truly lived under an American government that wanted them to die actively and not be there.
Yeah.
Like they just wanted it to take care of their gay problem. And so like and to see these people, like to get to be in a room with these people has been the most.
And the joy and the resilience and the heartbreak
and the community and the way they fucking show up for each other in a way that other people just do not. And it's amazing. Like, it's amazing.
There was a person who I will never forget. Like, we were kind of doing like an early interview before we kind of dug in, and we were just kind of talking at the bar. It was like literally at the tool shed. And he said, I stopped counting the number of funerals that I went to that year when I reached 137, and it was only March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just was like, it hit me that night, and in a way that I've never been able to shake.
Yeah, I thought the one for me was like, because I grew up a lot in San Francisco and New York, both between, and there's a Safeway in San Francisco that like is close to the Castro. It's and off of Market that a lot of people go to, and a lot of, and so this guy was like saying, oh, I went to that Safeway, and I was like, oh my God, that's the Safeway I shopped at as a kid, like went to with my family too as a kid. And he was like, I went after like 7 a.m. Spreading of ashes at the ocean, and I went to go grocery shopping, and he said I was walking around the Safeway, and he said I stopped, and he was like, that was the last person I had in my life that was alive. I have nobody. I don't have friends. If I die, no one's coming to my funeral. Every fucking person in my life is gone now. And he's like, I'm standing in the middle of that Safeway, like with oranges in my hand. He's like, it dawned on me, who the fuck would I call when I'm dead? Who's going to call? Because my family doesn't want to speak to me. And, there's something so powerful about that. And I don't know, like this, and I know we're all over the map on this thing, and I'm sorry, Jeff. There's so much going on in the world.
I lost a cousin in '89.
But I'm like, if your God tells you to not show up for your family and you're the last person left, there's something really fucking
wrong
with that. Figure it the fuck out. Like, do you know what I mean? If your God is giving you an excuse to go like, oh, I'm not going to help out that fucking person because they've sucked a dick once in their life. I'm like, girl, you've probably sucked a dick a few times in your life. Like, show the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, seriously.
Although I've kind of come to the mind that it's that person's hate, and then they project their hate onto God.
Absolutely.
It rarely comes from God to them, right? They're a prejudiced person, and they're like, I'm prejudiced, so my God is.
And it's also an excuse to be selfish and not show up.
Yeah.
It's also really an excuse. Like, we live in a culture where a lot of people like to talk a good game and then not actually show up actively to do something about it. And what a great excuse not to show up. It's like, oh, they're gay, or oh, they're black, or oh, they're this. It's like, it's the ultimate form of privilege, really, and it's really gross.
Well, I think all of that informs our filmmaking.
Yeah,
when you live through all of that and you think about these things, we both write characters who are experiencing some versions of these things, even if it's not the plot that drives it's not the engine that drives the plot. It's still the context in which they exist, because it's the context in which we exist. I'm writing a folk horror film that has nothing to do really with like gay rights or the America we live in, but all of those characters live in a world where racism and homophobia are very real. It's set in Louisiana. I can't avoid those topics.
Yeah, or anywhere.
And you know that world so well.
I do. I know that Gulf Coast
right?
very well. My family's all on the Gulf Coast.
And us West Coast, East Coast people who lived in bubbles, actually, it's helpful to share that experience, right? Because although, I grew up in a multicultural, multiracial part of Los Angeles, but I had 3 friends come out in their 40s, right? And they just tried their darndest to fit in, and then finally, something about turning 40 for my generation, people were just like, I can't fake it anymore.
Yeah.
It's a long time to fake it.
It's a long time. Marriage, kids, and then be like, you know what? I'm getting a divorce because I'm gay. And it's like...
Yeah. And also sometimes I also love that sometimes, like, it's not faking it. Like, that's still a family you've made. Those are
Yeah, it's still people they love.
Like,
Yeah.
it's still people they fucking love. And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
You evolve into something else. Do you
Actually,
know what I mean?
one
Which is
friend
beautiful.
wanted to stay married with his wife, and she said, "No, you need to be with someone you love, and I need a partner who wants me."
It's very mature and respectful, and I like kind of love that.
Yeah, she kind of kicked ass.
She nailed that. Yeah.
Yeah, she really did. Yeah. Also, she was like, "No, I really want to be in bed next to someone who wants."
She absolutely deserves that
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I always.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe at some time there was a point when they did. You know,
Yeah.
and that shifts.
But
you know?
my
Two
my
things can be true at
hopefulness,
once.
I want to share my hopefulness, which is my stepdaughter, who's now a college freshman. When she was in middle school, so that was about 6 years ago, she had friends who were out.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so beautiful that my friends are coming, didn't manage till, and like the fact, and these kids are accepted, at least here in Los Angeles.
And they can turn on fucking Netflix and watch Heartstopper. And I know that, like, I have friends that make fun of Heartstopper, and I'm like, you guys, it is so. I think Heartstopper is so fucking powerfully beautiful that show is that literally a 6-year-old can watch that show pretty much, at least the first first season.
Yeah.
And, you know, and like
It ages with them.
yeah, and I'm like, thank God that show's alive. I mean, like, I would have given anything to have that show when I was 12 or 13 or 14, 15. You know, like literally.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people in their 40s responding to that show and really pushing back against the fact that it isn't super sexual and saying, you know what, this show would have meant so much to me, and I'm finding myself crying and mourning a loss I didn't know I had. You know, I think there is something that, and it's something that I do definitely think about in my own work, is that a lot of times because of just the world we live in, I feel like sometimes I feel behind the curve, you know, when you miss out on these like key moments in life. You know, I didn't go to prom. I didn't have a wedding. I didn't do these things that are such cultural touchstones that you're like, everybody has these, like, in general, making a broad generalization, but these are the touchstones of like maturation. Like, this is where you should be at. And I didn't have those things. And so I've always kind of felt like out of place. And I realize now, in a lot of ways, it's a gift. If you want those things, great, have them. But it's also a gift to be like, there is no one way to do anything. And I think that that's a really wonderful thing. I think with like filmmaking, it's taught me to like see things from as many different perspectives. And also, you can plan as much as you want. You know, the universe is going to have its own way. You may get there. Absolutely. You may have blocked the shot 10 times, had rehearsals, done storyboards, you know, tested the lighting, and get there on the day and go, what if we moved the camera like 8 feet that direction and shot it from a look, like a completely on the fly, and be like, oh, this is the way it should have always been. But you don't know.
Yeah.
You have to be open to like take that swing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. With all art.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that has been the role that art has served in our species, our storytelling species existence, going back to the cave paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we had alphabets.
Yeah.
We still told stories.
I've always left mistakes in my music, like intentional. There's like things that I could have edited out that I'm like, no, that was a mistake I made. It was very human. I tend to do that much less with film, because if you make a mistake in film, people will never stop talking about it. Ever. So I think with music, like with film, I want to visually tell things that feel true and that are flawed and human and beautiful, because there's beauty in the mistakes. There's beauty in the darkness. There's beauty in the ugly, messy human justness that we experience. And so I always try to find ways to share some elements of that. Sometimes with humor, sometimes with horror, sometimes just document flat affect. Like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
That is excellent. Wow, is that the perfect point to...
Longest Discover Now indie film podcast ever.
Oh no! Every once in a while, and God bless them. Every once in a while, I get somebody who, they're like, "This is my first podcast, and I've been dying to talk about things." I totally lack the discipline to cut someone off. So
Oh my God! Well, you can edit the fuck out of us if you
no,
need to.
no, we won't edit anything. Are you kidding?
I'm a rambler, so I was trying really hard to focus.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else either of you want to bring up, or because we'll
Go see
by the
movies
way-
in movie theaters. Go see
see
queer movies in movie theaters. There's a lot of great shit coming out. Go see Pillion. It's coming out. Go see Chronology of Water. It's out now. Support queer filmmakers in theaters.
And I keep hearing that the younger generation now, I don't even know what to call them, but people under 20 now are saying things like, I don't want to watch streaming. I want to go to the theater.
Yeah.
It's like a rebellion thing, right? They want to be unlike the generation that watches shit on their phones.
I'll say this too: the worst behaved people in the movie. I see a lot of movies. The worst behaved people are always people in their 40s, 30s, and 40s. Yeah, they're on their phones. They can't. They're scrolling.
Are those millennials? I don't even know who's who anymore.
We're millennials, and I would
We're not though. We're like that weird
Generation X.
We are the end of Gen X, the start of millennial. We're like the Zennial. We're that little pocket generation. Sometimes it's called
The truth is, yeah,
it's
exactly.
called the Star
I might
Wars
be right
generation.
in the center of Gen X, late 60s, but it's not like everyone born before 1964 was one way and everyone born after
Yeah,
65 is
no.
another way.
Well, yeah,
It is.
I was a latchkey kid. I, was reading Stephen King and watching movies that were super violent long before I was supposed to. Like a lot of Gen X staples, but I grew up in the South, in the rural community. So like I'm not like a kid who grew up in Brooklyn having those like that Gen X experience and my Gen X experience are very different.
Super different. All right. Well, after this one, even after we finish recording, then we'll do the 4 questions thing.
Okay, yeah.
Which,
Let's do it.
I have them
which
written.
Daniel got to do 4 years ago.
No, and I did it badly.
You
so I'm
think
glad
so?
I horrible. So I'm glad I get to do it again.
All right. Well, then, first we'll put clickable links in the show notes for anything either of you want linked, whether it's Instagram or websites or anything you want to link. We can throw links in there for people to follow you or just find interesting things. Heck, you make me. It's funny now. You make me want. Not that this is a localized podcast by any means. Of course, it's oddly enough. Like a couple months ago, I looked at the numbers, and someone in Singapore had binged like all 500.
That's
something.
amazing.
And I was like, someone in Singapore loves indie filmmakers. Go figure. So.
I mean, that part.
But you make me. I was going to say the earlier part of our chat made me think. God, I wonder if I should put a link to like indie theater or something.
Do both. Yeah, do both.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll do
'Cause-
both.
I mean, I talked about it, but like television and movies opened the world up to me. Like, I was watching foreign films as a small kid. Like subtitles never bothered me, thankfully. As long as I can see them, I am blind as a bat. But like that, I feel like I'm a much more empathetic person because of it. I joke all the time that like growing up, there were 3 films for some reason on repeat every weekend on like cable. And it'd be like Jaws was always on, Grey Gardens, and Last Year at Marienbad. I swear to God, played every Saturday afternoon.
Really good. If you're gonna multiple watch, there's some good ones.
I've seen the 3 of those films so many times because of that, and
God.
That is, well, this will probably come up in the 4 questions episode we do after this, but that's one of the things I bemoan is the lack of repeat viewing that we get to do now because there's so many choices. It's hard to make yourself sit down and watch the ones you love that you've already seen. But anyway, all right, so I will do the quick wrap up, which is, well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you both for being here and being in person because it's always better to
So much better
look
in person.
It's better in person.
Right? Zoom is almost eye contact, but it's not the same. All right, so if you're listening to this is the Discover Indie Film Podcast, where we talk to filmmakers on the festival circuit and more. So go to discoverindiefilm.com to learn more about it. On social media, it's always at DIFWins. We're on all the platforms except Twitter, X now, because a year ago pulled off of there and kind of happy that we did. So anyway, that's discoverindiefilm.com. If you go to discoverindiefilm.org, that is the nonprofit that runs 2 film festivals in the Los Angeles area, Sherman Oaks Film Festival, that's every December, and Film Invasion Los Angeles, that is every June. They are both ranked in the top 100 best reviewed list worldwide out of 14,000 film festivals. So I'm so glad. That brings me joy. And so that's discoverindiefilm.org. That's where you can get linked to both of those festivals. And I often refer to them as siblings. Well, we're recording this in January, so Saturday night we wrapped up Film Invasion Lima in Peru. We expanded to I was so lucky to meet some wonderful people down in Lima who were actually at the festival last year at December at Sherman Oaks at the closing night mixer. Two filmmakers, a team from Peru were sitting there with me at the bar at Look, and hey, Chevy said to me, Jeff, I wish I had a community of indie filmmakers like this down in Lima.
Wow.
And I said, well,
Let's do it.
someone hit me up about doing Film Invasion Vancouver, and they didn't want to do all the work. Someone hit me up about doing London, they didn't want to do the work. Oakland didn't want to do it. Like, I keep getting approached by people, and they think, oh, I'll help you find a theater and you run the festival. I'm like, no, I don't have time anymore. But
These guys showed
Pilar and Chevy stepped up, and they ran a wonderful festival down in Lima last weekend, and I couldn't be prouder of them. It's so nice. And I just get to be like the mentor advisor and make sure that, they start with the base of everything I've learned doing 2 festivals a year for 10 years.
Yeah.
So they got a nice head start.
It's a great head start.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And oh my God, the theater was so beautiful. It's in the Spanish Quarter. Brings up the subject of colonialism, but still, it is kind of amazing that in the middle of a South American capital, you just, all of a sudden, you feel like you're in Seville, Spain.
That's so beautiful.
Beautiful architecture. Don't want to think about what they did to the people who built those
When
buildings.
it allows those conversations to continue to happen.
It does, yeah. And
It's good to reclaim spaces.
Yeah. All right, so that's the wrap up. Just go to discoverindiefilm.com or .org and check the links for these 2 wonderful individuals. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.